You're tuned in to the MtG Cable cast, where they cover Magic, the Gathering finance. All right? You don't know about it? You're tuned in right now and get ready to learn some shit. Buckle your seat belts and light a blunt and get ready for the MtG Cable cast. Starring Reptar and Thirsty, them onion head motherfuckers.
Alrighty, everybody's welcome to the newest episode of the Cabal Cast. And this week, we're doing something that we've kind of like floated around for, I feel like 3 or 4 years. We've been saying like we should do an episode like this.
Yep.
But I recently lost my shit when one of these things happened to me at an event. Hopefully that's far enough into the video that we don't get it taken down. But and that prompted us to finally just do it. So with that, what we are doing, and this is kind of an educational episode more than anything, what do we consider some of the biggest vendor or LGS or whatever faux pas? Things that people do that they just shouldn't, things that we've seen, whatever, and just kind of put it out there as advice. So with that, let's take it away.
So up top, the first one that we have to talk about is understaffing. And this happens everywhere. It's not just inside gaming. It's not dedicated to vendors. It's not dedicated to an LGS. I come at things from the vending side of things. And when you're understaffed, it means one of a few things. It could be that you didn't expect that many players to be in the room, so you are understaffed, and that is a fine reason for this. You might not have heuristics to pull from. One of the benefits of having vended the GP system for so long was eventually you got a sense for how many people came out to events in different areas and for different formats. So you could predict, we need 3, 4, 5, 6 people. The size of the booth, etc., also determines how many people you want to bring. Another one could be that you just don't want to have that many people at your booth for financial reasons. You think it's okay to let sales and buys walk. And that is the most obnoxious thing possible. And that extends down to the LGS level where you just want to run on razor thin margins and you're fine underserving the community here and there. Sometimes it does happen where you staff appropriately, but you get 102 players for your first Final Fantasy pre-release, so you effectively end up being understaffed because nobody pre-regged like you asked them to. And you're lucky when an L1 judge gets off a plane and decides to walk in and say, hey, how are things going? And you pick them up. Ask me about that one. And this is, for me, both as an employee and as somebody at an event, like I said before, one of the most obnoxious things. As somebody looking to buy cards, it's obnoxious because I just want to give you money for the cards that I want. I don't want to have to wait 20, 30, 40 minutes for somebody to finish a buy or a really big sale or for somebody to get back from lunch, etc. Like, that's not my problem. You've lost my money, then that's it. Like, I'll walk and find somebody else. As an employee inside the booth, it's obnoxious because that means we're underserving people, and I either have to run multiple sales for a bunch of people across the board and hope I get all my numbers right, hope that, watch cards in multiple people's hands.
Yeah.
If they're looking at things, or sometimes you can only serve one person like that at a time, depending on how your booth operates. And I can't even imagine what it's like as a buyer being underserved. We've all seen buy lines, and sometimes it's just because, okay, we brought 3 buyers, that's what we thought we would need, and then there's just a rush all of a sudden. It is what it is. That's kind of lost. But for me, that is the first and foremost impactful thing that you could be doing as a vendor or not doing as a vendor, is just underserving by understaffing.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really gets me is looking at space, right? You look at a half island. It's 4 tables. All right. There's a couple questions that I'm going to ask myself about what kind of staffing I should bring. How many other options are in the room? Because if there's only 20 vendors total at this event, I might be able to staff a little bit less because people aren't going to rush all over the place because they have all these choices. There's not a lot there. But when you go to an event where there's 100 plus, all of a sudden that plays to me an even more important role in it, because now there's a ton of options for people to go to, and they can walk 100 feet and they're more willing to walk 100 feet and find somewhere they can sit down immediately than wait the 5 minutes there.
Yep.
And that's one of the biggest things, like you said, is buyers. Underserving that is so crucial. I kind of have it's a symptom of people underserving, I'll say. And it's something that I feel like all of us who consider ourselves vendors have had to wrestle with at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And that is buying inside of an LGS. And there's a few rules here that I just think everyone should know, because I don't think anyone is doing this maliciously. I don't think anyone goes into an LGS and says, fuck this place, I'm buying all the singles tonight. Sometimes you just buy, it happens. Try to be respectful about it. You know, if they don't serve singles, like if they don't sell singles, just let them know, hey, I'm going to buy some singles in here. If they do, hey, can I buy them in here? What's the protocol for that? Or should I leave? Because I'm fine leaving. I owned an LGS. I had people ask me, can I do it in here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, some people are fine with it, some aren't. I personally, totally fine with it. We all started that way. We were all backpackers once. And it's important to me to kind of remind people that are in that situation, you're only going to go as far as your respect is going to be in that.
Yeah.
And if you can't give the 30 seconds to be like, you know, hey, Ryan, can I buy in here? What's the rule? Do I give you 10%? Do I go out and get ice cream? The big one and Grand Prix that we did was we asked if people liked hot dogs, because back then hot dogs were $1. Inflation's a wild animal. So you could say, oh, I can get you 100 hot dogs for that, and then walk outside and hand cash or PayPal, whatever.
Yeah.
Because after a certain point, channel did crack down on that a lot. And that's, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But in an LGS, you doing that can actively harm the community.
Yes.
Unless you are doing it the right way. And that's the thing that's most important to me, because I don't think anyone's malicious about it. I think it happens because people just don't know better. They don't think, whatever the case is. And that's like, guys, just ask the question of the LGS. Can I buy in here?
Mm-hmm.
No? All right. How can I leave? Is that disrespectful? Like, what do you want? Especially now. Everyone knows I'll be there for Wednesday Modern, and I'll have 12 fetches for you. Like, we're all doing it. Just be respectful. We all know it's being done. Just be honest.
Yep, that goes a long way, and you can tell pretty quickly when you walk inside an LGS if they are going to be okay with it or not, based on the fact of whether or not they have singles.
Yeah.
Right. If you have singles, then it's a huge. If the LGS has singles, it's a huge question. It's obvious. If they don't, then you can kind of get the tenor of the players inside the space and just ask the players. You don't have to ask the LGS, because if it's your first time there. Yeah. They're going to know, because they've been doing this long enough. Players who draft generally only like to churn their singles as quickly as possible. If they can't do it on-prem to the store, they're going to do it on-prem to somebody else who is in the event. Yep. My LGS actively buys singles, and I've heard people looking to sell their singles after a draft to other players in the room. Whether or not that's okay, I don't know. I have not asked, but it happens everywhere. So you have to be cognizant, and you have to be respectful.
Yeah,
and
not hard. And
who knows? Maybe in time, as you mentioned, you're only worth as much as the respect you have. You could actually just be the person that the LGS sends people to in time.
Yeah.
When you are respectful and you show up, you're diligent. The people enjoy what you're doing. It can just kind of elevate you inside the community to be that person. We've both talked about it before, serving communities like that. So, absolutely.
Yeah, I've literally, myself and other people I know, have had shops call them when something too big came in and said, hey, this just walked in, do you want it?
Yep.
That's huge.
Exactly. So moving along, for me, the largest bucket of items I have, we've termed quality of life. This is purely from a vendor perspective, and this is kind of like as you level up as a vendor, it's something you need to understand. It is things like sleeping more than one person per bed or more than a room's occupancy is not good. You should have one person per bed, no more. You shouldn't be looking to put somebody on the floor to cut corners and save money. The more rested your staff is, the more privacy they have, the better they're going to function all weekend long. Another is not giving a per diem or refunding meals. This is all part and parcel of understanding what your write-offs, your tax write-offs are and aren't. There was a vendor that I worked for that would refund all of my food, but not alcohol. So if we wanted to go out, we wanted to have a drink, which is usually what would happen on Sunday or the last day of the event if it would stretch longer. We would just get the bills split and itemized, and we would be refunded for the food bill, but not the alcohol. That's a cost we incurred. I worked for another vendor that didn't do a per diem or refund meals until the Sunday meal, and I can tell you the difference between those two was immeasurable from an employee satisfaction standpoint. Everybody liked working until the question came down of where are we going to eat, because not everybody could afford to go where the owner and the show lead wanted to go, and it created a rift, and it did create friction. And then the last one under quality of life is not accommodating for travel days. And it could be costs incurred during travel for meals or just travel in general. But again, you've got to understand what your tax write-offs are. And if you have to fly your employees, they can pay ahead of time and then you can refund, or they can use corporate card, whatever you want. But you have to accommodate for travel days from a financial perspective, because again, your employees work better when they are well rested and well paid.
Yeah, especially the travel thing is especially crucial for how many people use independent contractors now at shows. A lot of us have jobs. A lot of us have families, whatever else. And, we may not work, or we may, but either way, that's another day that's added onto the event. And I think that's the biggest one of all of those that people tend to forget, is a travel day is a day lost.
Yes.
Especially the travel day back. You are just so wiped and exhausted from the end of that event that the first thing you do when you walk through the door is throw the keys down and struggle not to fall over on the floor. People not accounting for that has always been bizarre to me. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine, because that's exactly how I came to experience all of these bullet points and more, was as an independent contractor for a number of vendors throughout the space who were in various eras. In development, we have like storming, performing, and norming, developmental terms. And I worked for vendors that were in all four of those spaces before. And the best one that I worked for was when I was working on-prem, because our travel days were accommodated by the org. Those were still work days. We had things to do before and after travel, but because they were tied into working for the org proper, we didn't have to worry about taking vacation days or flying home late on a Sunday to be at work Monday morning, losing a day on the way in. That's how I ended up walking into Nebraska Friday morning, a couple hours into the event to start my work day, was because I flew out on Thursday night. Because if I had more vacation time, I would have taken it, but I didn't. So that's just kind of how it happened. So that sucked. And you're going to experience this throughout your history as a vendor, unless you work for somebody on-prem or they are actively seeking a high QOL for their employees.
Yeah.
Anything from the LGS perspective on that? I assume, like, unless we've talked about this before, where LGSs do send reps to local shows, but I imagine aside from like the per diems,
no, the per diems, and then like you said, the compensation for travel days, because back in the Moonbase days, we would get the day after we got back off. It wouldn't count against us. It's just, look, you worked through your weekend, so you get the extra time off afterwards. And that's one that I think a lot of people also don't account for, because, I mean, look, that's like attrition happens. And sometimes you need a day to recover. I'm immunosuppressed. Every time I go to an event, I come back with a cold without fail. It's going to happen. And that wear and tear does happen. And just like, maybe don't say, hey, you can have the day off if you can't afford to let them have the day off or something, but maybe then you shouldn't be in business. But just account for that time and let them know, hey, you need it, you can have it. If not, you're welcome to come in, give them the choice, let them decide, just to, again, like, show consideration for your employees. And I guess that is quality of life, but that seems like such a, like, why do people struggle with that?
Right. What do you
strange. And piggybacking on that, mine is, going into things assuming you know everything. There's, especially on the sports side, there's people that have been doing this for 50 years, 60 years or more at this point. There's people that have been doing this for 2. They all bring different perspectives, all different stories, all different ways that things work. For example, my thing for a show was we would give the per diem or reimburse meals, but then Sunday, everyone would go out for a nice dinner straight up on the company. And just, I didn't know that. I didn't assume that. Someone suggested that that was something to do because I asked, hey, what should I do about food? Okay, I learned. Go to other vendors, see how they set up. Good, bad, whatever. Everyone has something to learn and to teach in this industry. And it could be the same people teaching the same things. I've had 10 people not tell me not to do business with someone. Well, I just don't do business with them because I trust those guys. But coming into this assuming I know how my logistics are going to work. I know how I'm going to overcome XYZ problems. I know I'm going to make this much in my first month. No, we know none of that. I've been doing this for 20 years at this point. I know none of that because day to day things change so quickly. It's wrong for me to assume that I know how things are going to shake out.
Yep.
What things are going to look like, the best way to treat my employees, the best way to treat my LGS, my customers, anything. Don't assume you know better than anyone. Someone makes a suggestion, hear it, listen, take it in, decide what to do. There have been so many people, and this is happening really big right now on Pokemon, that see this boom and think it's great, they're going to make money forever. It's the same thing that happened in COVID. There were a bunch of tourists in the industry, and then things got hard, and the people that assumed they knew better didn't. And it happens every day to people that have been here forever or that just started. Don't assume you know better than the industry. The industry was around before you, and it's going to stick around after. It chews us all up.
Yep.
Don't assume you know better. That's it. That's one of my biggest ones.
Yeah, and I like to piggyback on that with something, or to further a point that you mentioned, which is just at some point you're going to be out there with other vendors who have various levels of experience in the space. And one of the best places to glean knowledge, ask questions, and maybe even avoid some issues in the future is going to be discussing with other vendors, either at the event when things are slow, before you open, after it closes, or just at a dinner afterwards. We've mentioned a number of times how at the end of a given day, usually we'll go out to eat with other vendors, or maybe at the end of the event. That's the perfect time to just ask general questions about the business, how they're handling things, if they're seeing certain trends that you are, etc. And then maybe you can take some of that knowledge back home with you to impart on your business. And it's going to further everything you are doing, because you don't come in with that holier than thou attitude of like, hey, I cracked this nut. I don't need to listen to you. Your knowledge is outdated, it's incorrect, etc. That's just not how you play it. And then the last bullet point that I have is something that we've talked about here and there, and that is underserving the player base in the room as a vendor. And this could be from a product quality standpoint or a product quantity standpoint. And one instance I have is there was, I don't know how many shows in a row, a vendor that showed up to Grand Prix with no cards in their cases, just cash. That's it. Just cash.
Sell me cards and like hundreds and ones laid out in cases.
Yep, that was it. That's what they were there to do. Another thing we talk about all the time is just not bringing the appropriate cards for the format for the main. And we don't even mean like, oh, they had only a handful. That's nothing. I mean like a literal nothing burger. Just it's a standard event, and we only brought modern. Cool. There are going to be players in the room that need cards for the main, for sides. Now we have re-CQs in the same formats. People like to pivot. You need to serve the players that are in the room. And then from a product quality standpoint, we can all point to a number of vendors in the space currently who on their websites sell near mint all the way down to played, but only vend MP on-prem. That's just not serving the player base or the players in the room.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Or like, as we've joked around before, I'm pretty sure I've said it, the running joke for a very long time was the Andy Stoke near mint. Is it sleeve playable? Good. I want it. Like, just a case full of that is not serving the player base that's in the room. You've got to understand your audience. And then, as a second bullet point here, after product quantity and quality is just having prices that are absolutely out of alignment with the room. If your prices are out of alignment with TCG Play or Star City, etc., whatever the barometer is, but they're in line with what's in the room for both the buy and the sell, that's perfectly fine. The captive audience thing is very real. You can sell higher, you can buy lower. It's just the nature of the game, no pun intended. But if you're the one booth who's just selling way too high, or you're buying way too low, you're going to miss. We talked about it. I can never remember the name of the company. Was it MTG Deals? Were they the ones with the yellow banner and the red logo?
Yep, Deals.
Yeah. Their slogan was sell low, buy high.
Yeah.
They wanted to be the cheapest in the room on their sales to make as many sales as possible so they could buy at the highest prices of the room and walk away with as many cards as possible. Yeah, exactly. It was just a churn model. The owner wanted to like make their 7-8 digits personally and then be out of the business. And they had a fantastic churn model. Like they were looking to
very good.
Yeah, set up a warehouse.
They were literally the every vendor dump vendor.
Yep. And like they were miles ahead of everybody on TCG Player, in person, etc. They were setting up their warehouse, what have you. And like I think at some point they just ripcorded. I don't know when or why, but it was not like a finance problem. But that was their mantra. They kind of wanted to raise the bar, so to speak, for vendors in the room. If you can't keep up, then that's fine. We'll scoop it all. Cash and cards. Right? Yep. That's serving the player base in the room. You have to do that because if you don't, you're going to do nothing. No sales, no buys. Easy.
Yeah, I actually, funny story as an aside about deals. There was one event I worked for a company. It was Grand Prix Phoenix, the last one.
Okay.
At the start of the weekend, hey, go through these 5 rows and take them to deals so you guys can get paid. That's another big quality of life thing. Don't make your employees do that.
That's fair. Comb these 5 rows, not in your spare time.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, and I think that is, when we have your customer profile, we've said 30 times on this podcast, is the most important thing. And obviously it's changed now because events are wildly different. But yeah, not being able to serve the people in the room unless, like I love Calf. He's just the high-end guy, and that's kind of his thing.
Yep.
That's fine when you're at the scale where that works. That's not something anyone should ever start as, and it shouldn't be the de facto. Like you need to be able to sell to people in the room. Mm-hmm. You're not going to go to Eternal Weekend and bring Dragonstorm singles, right?
Aside from Corey Steelcutter, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Fair. Yeah, the 2 to 3 cards, yes, they do, yeah. Because every set gets a vintage and legacy playable card now because pushed. Yeah, you need to serve that. Yep. That's your core bill-paying, force. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's one that to me is the one suggestion that, it's so obvious you should never need to suggest it. But especially, with the prices in line in the room, how many events did you go to when Channel had the deal for local stores? Mm-hmm. Where they get in for $2K or whatever it was for a half island? How many of those did you go to where they were sold out on the first day?
Oh, geez. Yeah, you could tell what the local store was. If you hid all the banners in the room, all the iconography, and you were just looking at cases, you would almost always know which store was the local one because it would just be full of holes.
Yeah, and they would be at TCG and not in line with the room.
Yep.
And that's, again, your audience is different based on where you are is another thing I think people don't understand. My audience in store, that's different than my audience when I'm at an event.
Yep.
That's different than my audience on the website.
That's true.
Those are 3 very different audiences, and knowing when to and how to serve them is an important thing to know, but that's also one that, takes forever to learn.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then the last bullet point we have is the impetus for this episode.
God. All right. Hypothetical situation, okay? You are a vendor at an event. I am vendor A. Customer A comes up and says, "Hey, can I see that card? I'd like to look at it."
Yep. So I take card out of case and hand to player and watch.
Okay, I am looking at it in my hands. Now customer B walks up, points to it and says, "I'll pay sticker." Hypothetically, as a vendor, do you say, "Hey man, he's going to pay sticker. Can you match that if you like it? If so, it's yours. Otherwise, I'm going to sell it to this guy." Do you B say, "Hey, he's going to buy it. Sorry, man. Or do you C, grab it out of customer A's hand and say, he's going to buy it, sorry, hand it to him and exchange money?
I know the answer, but I'm going with D, which would just be, I have somebody already looking at this card. If they buy it, I'll see if we have more. That's what I would do.
That is also a very good answer, yes. That is the traditional Magic vendor answer, which is very good. Because what I think as a vendor, as a customer, as everything, A is the bare minimum. And if you tell me, hey, he's going to pay, yeah, cool, man. I'm not mad at it. You're a business. You're making your money. You're paying your bills.
Yep.
Cool. What happened was C. Do not ever do that.
Just yoink,
under any circumstance.
Just yoink the product out of somebody's hands and hand it to somebody else.
Yeah. Like, even if someone is, like, looking at a card, don't just grab their shit. Like, if I'm sitting across someone in an EDH game, I'm not just going to grab their stuff, right?
Yeah.
So why, then, would I grab it out of somebody's hand when they said they're looking at it unless they make a move like they're going to steal it or something?
That's fair.
I just, like, guys, and this is kind of the flip side of the LGS thing from the beginning, where you ask the LGS. As a vendor, ask your customer.
Yeah.
You know, if and this happened all the time at Collector, we'd be low on sports boxes because they sell a shit ton on release.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have a guy come in, hey, do you have this box? Yeah. Do you want me to grab it for you? Or, hey, do you have this? If so, can you grab it? To me, that says this person is buying it. I'm not going to sell it to someone else that comes in if it's my last box unless, hey, do you want this for sure? Okay, cool. Sorry, man, he's getting it.
Yep.
Can't help you. I don't understand why, as a business owner, it is so strange for me to give respect to my customers, because that's ultimately what it's about to me. Like, that entire interaction is about the amount of respect you have for your customers. Like, I don't understand that. It just completely boggles my mind. And, you know, to a degree from an LGS perspective, you know, if my players come to me and say, you know, this is happening, this makes me uncomfortable or something, yeah, I'm going to respect them enough to do that. I'm also going to respect them enough to say, hey guys, I'm eating lunch. I'm going to eat over here away from where you guys are playing, even though I'm judging this event if I'm a judge. I assume you're not eating your food over people's games when you judge.
That is accurate. I usually have somebody take over.
Yeah. And that's like, why is it then expected in those situations, but when you get into a one-on-one situation with a customer that you would think it is acceptable to do that? Just have respect for them. Mm-hmm. As a person that is there to pay your bills, try to have a basic amount of respect for them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if, you know, we did a content series at Moonbase called The Filthy Casual Hour. And it was a bunch of CDH players talking about, like, oh, these things need to happen in the format. Casual players just don't understand. I still had infinite amounts of respect for my customers that were casuals. I went out of my way to make sure they had everything they needed, that they were comfortable. I don't understand why people don't get that. And that goes to not just your customers, your judges.
Yep.
Making sure that they're treated with respect in your store. Making sure that your employees are treated with respect in the store, and that you as the business owner are treating them with that respect. It's just be decent, man.
Yeah.
Why is it hard?
I don't get that. Like, that is just damaging for your reputation, and that's definitely something that, even if you don't think about it in the moment, when you read about it on Reddit, that somebody had that experience, and you're just like, you look at that and you wonder why people are negging you or, you know, ratioing you.
Yeah.
Oh, man, well, that's who we are right now. You know, that's the reputation that we're building. And we kind of end at the same place we started, which is just having respect for the people you are working with or the entity you are representing, that it is everything to you in the space, either as a backpacker or a vendor, an LGS employee, etc. And at the end of the day, that is one of the most important things you can remember, is that your reputation is everything, and you need to be respectful.
Yep.
I really don't. I think that's a nice capstone and a way to cap things off. So unless you got anything else. All right, so for this week's episode of MtG Cabalcast, where you can find us on Facebook, Patreon, YouTube, Twitter, and Blue Sky, I am at Halt I Am Reptar. You are
at Damon_Thurston.
We'll see you next week.